Ace is finally revealed. We have a good purple searcher and a 10 drop cost reveal. Hey crew, or if you haven't joined the crew yet, hit that sub for love. Just Zay here, and I want to go ahead and talk about this week's TCG releases. I want to go over some of the pros and cons for some of the cards and what decks that they may be very good in. And I also want to go over some future card predictions, as if you've seen in some of my last videos, I'm pretty spot on about a lot of them. Also, as well, I ask that you stay tuned towards the end of the video so I can go over some of the videos that I plan on posting later this week, as well as some things that I will definitely have planned in mind within the upcoming future. So by all means, let's go ahead and get into it. Definitely going to start out the gate with Ace for sure, and also start off by saying yes, this is a finally moment, but also for those who know, this is way too soon. Honestly, if you know, you know. Now Ace has the on play ability where up to 2 of your opponent characters lose 3,000 during the turn, and if you have Whitebeard as your leader, which obviously you would if you're playing Ace, then he gains Rush. So out the gate, definitely more Whitebeard support, and you're putting minus 3k to 2 characters plus Rush. I think honestly this is a super good card. It does kind of suck because yes, you're not giving it to a leader, but outside of that, it's still a really good ability. And also the other downside is that I still think it's too soon. Again, if you know, you honestly just know. Now, if you thought that wasn't good enough, then we got this spicy alt art for you. And sheesh, for a super rare, honestly, I'm super hyped for this, and I just honestly cannot wait to pull this. I think this is a beautiful art. I do not know if this is exactly from the manga. Now, going on that, remember that the Shanks parallel version, the one that was really hyped up by everybody and everybody went crazy about? Well, now I'm introducing one of the parallel versions of OPO2, and that's going to be, yes, a manga covered Ace scene card. Now, if you thought Shanks was going to be worth a lot, honestly, everybody's going to go crazy for this card. And I went crazy for this card while I was at work. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy. I do not care. This is a gorgeous card. Now, I'm sorry to get y'all so hype in the beginning to then be shown the rest of some cards, and starting with, well, this isn't a crazy card, but moving on to this, we have King Do. King Do is released as another Whitebeard card. It is a 5 cost, 7,000 character. I mean, it's really cool, as in it's a big body, and I guess you can discard it for Marco. And outside of that, I mean, it's pretty, And it was crazy, he got all art too, you know. No, he just looks like He-Man to me, in my opinion. And honestly, this is like He-Man for One Piece. But anyway, moving forward, we definitely also have Little Oars Jr. Again, they just were coming with these emotional damage because if you know, again, you know. But honestly, Little Oars Jr. is pretty nice. He has a cost 7 for 9,000 power. He's really good. I think he's a additional Whitebeard support. Yes, he's a vanilla, but again, you can use him for like Marco's ability and maybe some other support that comes out for Whitebeard pirates. You never know. And I mean, it does give me hopes for the fact that he's a giant character, which will make me speculate that they might start throwing out some of the other giant support. Who knows, maybe even a giant leader. Will I think it'd be in this set? Absolutely not, but it would be something good to see in the foreseeable future for sure. Now, moving forward, we have an interesting Zoro card because yes, this works very well with the film combo, which I discussed in my last video, and I think it is really good, and it can be searched by Bonnie and or Nami, and it could be used as an extender. But I mean, honestly, I'm just quite shocked that they did not give him an ability, because every other Zoro in the game has an ability. So it just threw me as a curve that they put him out, and they put him out so much later than everybody else. Everybody kind of speculated that he was going to have a power boost of some sort, or just have a continuation of the combo where you summon Luffy to summon Brook to summon Nico to summon Law to so on and so forth. Honestly, everybody thought that this was going to be an extra combo extender, but I do see the reason as to why it is balanced, because otherwise it would just make the already crazy combo even more consistent. So it definitely makes sense as to why. Now next we have Inazuma. I think this is going to be, again, going back to another video that I posted already, really good, more Impel down support that I speculated would come out shortly, and surely enough, we have this. Now, if you don't remember, this was like the second in charge behind Ivankov, so it doesn't shock me that they came out with this character. And it has the ability where if you have one or less cards in your hand, this character gains 2k and is a blocker. So it is definitely good with Impel down support and is a potential big blocker. But I mean, as far as it being a blue card, you already know majority of blue cards are very high much blockers. But it does throw the speculation that there's going to be a Revolutionary Army characters that come out in the future, or maybe even leaders. I did have my hopes and speculations with another creator, KUZAN, shout out to KUZAN. I did have my speculation of seeing another Revolutionary Army character, and honestly I would have preferred Sabo, but now it just gives me more hopes that there may be a Sabo leader. In my opinion, that would be super dope. I do see the drawback though of this character working with Ivankov, for the simple fact of if you have one or less cards in your hand. I do see the mixed synergy, however, though, in regards to Ivankov's ability, where she has the ability of at the end of your turn, you're going to draw 2 cards if you have none in your hand. So obviously if you end up having none in hand and you draw the 2, this is going to lose its extra 2k power, which would potentially lose you out of a 7k blocker and instead bring you down to a 5k blocker. But outside of that, I think this is a really good card regardless. It does give you, however, the drawback of not having anything in hand to counter. So it is very dangerous of a deck still, in my opinion, but overall this is a nice addition to it. Now, crazy as it is, moving on with that, we were given the character card of Ivankov. Now on play, you're going to draw cards until you have 3 in your hand, and then you get to play a 6 or lower blue Impel down character from your hand. So this is very good. It does give you great card advantage as far as what you can do within that turn, and if you're lucky enough and if you play it right, you get to play your Luffy for free. So I do think that this is very good as far as the possibilities that you can do with comboing. And if you don't remember, Luffy has the ability of on play or when attacking, you may trash 2 cards from your hand to return 1 character with the cost of 4 or less to the hand, and it gains double attack this turn. So I think if you pull it off correctly, you can have your Ivankov play out and then still play your Luffy, which will give you double attack, which I think it is going to be very interesting. Now, outside of that, again, like I discussed before, this is still a very dual-edged deck at the moment. And I think it needs more support as far as the protection-wise. Yes, you can throw some boas in there for the blocking capabilities, but I just really think it's very crippling to have no cards in hands or very little to many, because if you play against a very good deck that can run the board very well, you're going to leave yourself wide open. Now moving on, we have Shiryu. Shiryu has a good ability of on play, you're going to KO one of your opponent's characters with 1 or less. So this rids of small blockers, the Nami that everybody hates to try to rest, searchers. It pairs with the Marine strategy really well, and I think it's okay of a play cost to be put in just a plain purple deck, but I do think that this is not going to be played in any plain purple deck. It's just very situational outside of that, unless you're running it in a black and purple deck of this sort. I do see it being potentially being a high cost with a lower reward, because yeah, you're playing it for 4 and it's 5k, but I do think that there's other cards in both the purple and marine side of things where it's just a lot better, honestly, in my opinion, of this. But with it being an Impel down, I think this could get some more support definitely coming up shortly. Next we have Blue Gory, and Blue Gory is honestly just more Impel down support. I mean, it brings up the animal type perspective. I've seen that on a lot of cards, but honestly, right now, why play it? And honestly, I feel the same way moving with this next character, which is going to be Jaguar. Yes, that's another giant card, so it kind of gets my hopes up more for more giant support. But I mean, really, outside of that, again, it's like, why play it? It's a 4 cost for 6k body, but it's not really useful, in my personal opinion, to play vanillas unless you're playing a deck where, like Uda, for example, where you get to boost your vanilla cards up. Really, outside of that, you don't really see many people use any vanillas necessarily. So that definitely gives me the speculation that there may be something that of a support that helps vanillas, because moving on, we had another release of Yamakaji, and Yamakaji is just honestly another vanilla, so it's like, why play it? Yes, it is a low cost of 3 for 5k, but there's plenty of marine character cards that are the same exact cost and give you abilities at least. Now we have another release card that you would not expect, but honestly, this is just crazy as hell. We have KUZAN. Now KUZAN is going to be a secret rare, so that's going to be extremely hard to pull within itself already. But yes, it is a 10 cost, 10,000, that's right, 10 cost card, and it has the ability of on your turn, all of your opponent's characters lose 5 cost. That is a continuous thing. So that is very, very, very supportive as far as board breaking, and it has huge attack on top of that. And then it also has the on play ability to KO up to one of your characters that cost 0. Now, people are going to ask, as far as timing with the your turn ability, yes, you can play him, and because he is on the field and your turn affects, honestly, when you play the card, you're going to be able to KO one of your characters if it reaches 0. So do I think it's a very good card? Yes. It is essentially like the big Kaido drop, but it is very invest to play heavy, and it is a later game piece. And my biggest thing that I keep harping on so heavy is that there is no search for Marines. So it is very, very hard. Now what makes this super good as a secret art is the fact that it also has a alternate art. And honestly, this is just a really dope ass card to look at. Definitely, you pull any of these, it's just going to be a good pull regardless. Now moving on, we also have a KUZAN secret rare, normal art, and also another alternative art. When he has the ability of on play, you're going to draw a card, and when he attacks, you're reducing a card by 4. So he's honestly just a good free +1. So it's just going to benefit, I guess, the Marine and Navy decks, considering that you're just drawing a card by playing him. And then he does not need Dawn attached when attacking to activate his ability, which is very good compared to a couple other cards that we all know that has that ability of reducing, but you have to have a Dawn attached. But still, the negative is that there's no Surge in Navy deck at all, so it's just super rough. Good luck with the struggle. So moving after that, we have an interesting card. We have Morgan. So he's like a weaker KUZAN, but with a counter, which he just has like when attacking -3. And honestly, it's just the first time that Morgan may be useful like entirely, including in the anime. Like, it's shocking that he doesn't have anything bad about him, but I mean, he's just a weaker KUZAN if you don't pull him, I guess. So this, if you don't know, is going to be the standard battle promo pack for December in Japan. If you don't know what that's about, for December, this is the standard battle being held at official Bandai stores nationwide. Commemorative items for winning and participating will be released, and these are officially what those are. These are going to be your alternate arts for all cards that we know as staples in the beginning early stages of the starter decks. So that's your Nami, your Bonnie Searcher, your Senamaru Searcher, and your Who's Who that everybody knows in the tutorial app is in Kaido's starting hand, which is just so damn annoying. Now next we have another parallel release right on time with the new release of the Film Red. We have, you guessed it, Uda. Now Uda is going to have the ability of on play or returning 2 down back to your deck, and your leader and all of your characters gain 1,000 until the start of your next turn. Yes, this is going to be a very interesting card because that ability does last of a power boost until essentially the start of your next turn, and it helps push for game in a late game state in a lot of Onigashima builds and stuff like that, where Onigashima is a card and is played effectively. It's very easy to get this into a mid game state instead of later game state, and it does very much so benefit with blockers and the sort, and just really, if it's boosting all characters, that is really detrimental as far as pushing for game heavily in mid or late game state. Now it does suck that it's not a permanent boost, but it is pretty balanced as far as returning 2 Dawn back for that, and it's lasting for a turn, and it being an 8 cost. But overall, I still think that it is a very much so high investment in playing this card, because it's essentially like the 9-drop Kaido, where it's like, it's very situational. I do think it is more beneficial than the 9-cost Kaido, but I mean, really, purple deck is just really heavy bent on destruction of cards and not so much boosting. So this will be a very so-so card. Now, interesting about this parallel art is that it does also have an alternate art. And yes, they're both secret, so good luck pulling this. Honestly, it's going to be very rough. But for the people who do end up pulling this at the packs, kudos to you, because honestly, this is just a beautiful card regardless. The art is very phenomenal, and it's super dope to look at. So something very interesting that they put out was that these are going to be the box topper alternate arts for set 2. Now, if you don't know what box toppers are essentially the extra card that you get if you were to buy a full sealed box, and it's just an extra free card that's a given. It's kind of randomized, but overall these are cards that we are familiar with because I went over these in past videos, and they're just really nice to look at. So I think that getting a box by itself is just the extra plus, considering that you're going to get a good card such as this, and in some cases some of these cards are actually pretty good staples to build some of the decks that some people may be running. So it's just something very interesting to look at. Another interesting thing to look at is going to be an alternate art for the championship series for Eustace Kid. This is the one that you've seen in promo packs where he has double attack if you give him 2 Dawn. And honestly, considering that this is the championship series edition, just good luck getting one. Honestly, this is a dope art to look at, but if you can even get one, I give you props because it's just going to be hard. And then going on, we have Django. Now, Django is really interesting. He has an alternate counterpart, and that's going to be if you have a full body in play, this character can't be KO'd in battle. Now, that's okay of a card, but really it doesn't mean much because he can still be KO'd by effect. So if you're playing mirror matches, if you're playing against red, I don't think anybody's going to jet pistol this, but I mean, if it happens, who's who, cards like that are still going to KO this very easily. It's just the early game like pincher kind of combo, and honestly without full body, this card is very useless. And going into full body, you have when attacking, if you have Django in play, he gets 3,000. Neither of them have rush, so it's kind of like more so an early game. If you have it, why not? But outside of this being a low cost combo, I mean, full body can still be KO'd by battle, so really this 2-card combo is okay. It's meh at best. So finally, we're going into a huge reveal that I already speculated to happen, and that's going to be Kazuki Odin. He has the huge ability of activating once per turn, paying 3 Dawn to switch him back to active. So he's essentially a 7-cost Kid Jr. kind of. Yeah, you can play him. He doesn't have rush, but he also has an on KO where he plays a cost 3 Wano type from your deck. Then you get to shuffle your deck. So it's going to help with the Toki strategy. If you don't remember, Toki has the ability of once in play, if you have an Odin card on the field, it becomes a blocker. But without Odin, it is just a low-cost vanilla for no reason. So it is going to be very interesting, I think, if you were to throw out the Odin and have a Toki in hand and you play Toki. In your next turn, you basically would be able to swing twice with Odin and have a protect for it. So it is going to be very good of a card, and I'm interested to see how people use him in Wano Country builds. This is a huge support for them. The only negative, but I don't really see it being a negative, is that it must be a specific 3 cost when you are using their on KO ability. But outside of that, I don't really think this hurts it. If anything, it kind of helps it with a lot of the cards being a 3 cost for sure. So we have Haina. It is going to be very interesting to see how she's used because when blocking, you choose a 6 or lower cost and they cannot attack for the turn. Why do I think that's very good? Because that can potentially stop game from happening in certain cases, because with that, you can stop abilities where when attacking, destroy a card, when attacking, draw a card, or anything of this sort. And in some cases, like for example, the new film deck, Nami has the ability of when attacking, she searches a card. So if you were to pop off Haina, your opponent will not be able to search, and that may stop their extension from happening. The only negative that I do see with this card is that it has the ability of only on block and not KO. Do I think that makes it very detrimental? No. And I think the only thing that is missing, which I can say over and over and over again until they finally do it, is a searcher. And with that in mind, we're going to talk about the Hanya Ball. Hanya Ball has, because it's a searcher finally for purple, that's good. Because let's be real, the film search purple was just meh at best. It was terrible and no one plays it unless you're looking for Douglas Bullet, and let's be real, who's playing Douglas Bullet right now when all these good Impel down cards are? Honestly, Hanya Ball is really good. It has the look at top 5, reveal a purple Impel down other than itself. So basically Nami search restriction, and then place the rest at the bottom of your deck. I just think this is good because with that, it really helps the Impel down because it does not restrict you to a certain cost, so you can search your Magellan or anything of this sort, and I think with that it's going to make purple a lot more consistent, because purple is very, very rough as far as not having searchers, and this being the first actual viable searcher. So I think this will make it very much so a lot more consistent. Welcome back, and kudos for making it thus far as my explanation on cards that have been released and what decks I think they should be running. I know for certain next week I'm going to start putting videos out with test plays and matches against other decks with proxies to show the combos that I've discussed in videos thus far. Finally, do stay on the lookout for other videos that I'll be posting later this week for those who are fortunate enough to be in the deck limited battles in these upcoming weeks. I'm going to put matchups as far as decks and how they match up against other plays, and what is the best strategy and the best ratio for some of those builds. And then I'm going to do separate videos as far as how to beat that specific deck. And they're not even limited to just the event. I think they're going to be definitely something to look for when the release comes out later this year. So definitely also take a look at if you just want to get ahead of the curve with builds and such, and how to play certain decks and how to beat certain decks. Finally, if you didn't already know, the next and final color of the new starter deck has been released. I'm going to do my predictions on what I think the contents of the card and how the strategy of that deck may run, so do stay out for that video as well. On that note, stay motivated, know that the One Piece is real, and know that you got love over here. Peace.